We're here again live in St. Peter's Square in front of St. Peter's Basilica. We have learned 2 days ago that Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI has passed away, and now it's really true since today, since 9 o'clock today, Rome time, Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI lies in state here in St. Peter's Basilica. Thousands of faithful are already lining up. There are double lines, almost triple lines now in front of the Basilica. That happened also before 9 a.m. And now 1 hour in, more and more people are coming, are also willing to stay in the line for hours, which will take them. Today, it's not as hot as the two preceding days, so it's not that terrible to stand here in St. Peter's Square. The weather is stable and fine, not too cold, not too warm. Perfect conditions also to pay reverence to a great Pope. We have a lot of media personnel covering this here, also live from St. Peter's Square, coming in right now also to do those stories. In the background, we hear the construction of the scaffolding of the platforms that are being constructed. Also, EWTN will be up there, will be transmitting and producing here in 3 languages, but altogether broadcasting all the proceedings around the funeral of Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI in more than 12 languages for 400 million TV households. I hope you're being with us for those days, also to experience a little bit the situation, the mood here in Rome, which is very solemn actually. It's a sad occasion. Yes, people are coming here to say their goodbyes. At the same time, especially what Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI always said and always also lived is that there is hope in the Catholic faith for a life after death, that there is hope and actually joy also in us leaving this world and going home to the Father, something that Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI has done, and now the people are coming. I ask again back Rudolf Gehrig, our Vatican correspondent here, who's also from Germany, actually not that far away from Pope Emeritus Benedict's hometown. Yesterday we were speaking a little bit about the childhood of Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI, but before we maybe come a little bit to his life also, Rudolf, can you tell us a little bit more what is happening right now here in St. Peter's Square, and what else have we learned in the past hours?
Yeah, this morning the mortal remains of Pope Benedict were brought to St. Peter's. Yesterday they stood in Mater Ecclesiae, the monastery where Benedict lived for the last 10 years after his resignment. And this morning, since 9 o'clock, people can come here, say farewell to Pope Benedict until 7 p.m. And yeah, there are a lot of people took the chance and do that.
And we have 3 days altogether, so today, tomorrow, and on Wednesday. Then on Thursday, of course, on the 5th will be the funeral. And for that, we are preparing now. Also here, the live broadcast, people are coming in. What else do we know? I heard that also state guests like the Italian president, the Italian prime minister have already paid their reverence to Pope Emeritus.
Exactly, and what we also know that the private secretary of Pope Benedict, Archbishop Georg Genswein, yesterday said that confirmed that the last words of Pope Benedict were, "Lord, I love you," which is beautiful, I think, because there were a lot of rumors, but yesterday Archbishop Genswein confirmed it, and his last words, he said his last words in Italian, so "Signore ti amo." So
yeah, because first we thought it was Jesus, ich liebe dich, which is German, of course, for Jesus, I love you, but it wasn't German. Actually, it was Italian.
Yeah, and I think it's very interesting if you think about that. Also, it's the words. These are the words of Saint Peter when Jesus resurrected from death, and they found each other on the beach, and he asked Saint Peter, "Do you love me?" And Saint Peter repeatedly said, "Yes, I love you, Lord, I love you." And now the successor of Peter repeats this word in this final hour. That's amazing.
You know, Rudolf, I was just down in the square also, here right behind us, standing a little bit in line with the people, talking to some people to understand also why they have come. I mean, on the one hand, it's obvious. On the other hand, everybody has their personal reasons also. And I spoke to 2 sisters, missionaries of charity, so the Mother Teresa sisters, right, who are also here in Rome, working with the poor, helping them. And they said, no, listen, we don't want to give you an interview or anything. We're just here to pray. We're just here to pray. What are your experiences? Why have people come here? Is it here to pray? Is it to say goodbye? Or what are the motivations also for lining up here?
I saw that people already from 5 or 6 o'clock already stood there in a row waiting for the gates to open. The gates opened at 9 o'clock. I think if it's just curiosity, you don't stand up there early, you don't wait that long. So people feel that there's something special. There's this special tension in this city, in this air, and everybody knows it's an historic moment, and everybody knows that a great person has left the earth, like Pope Francis said.
Like Pope Francis said, he also called Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI a saint. Not now during the proceedings here, but beforehand. I think briefly before Christmas also, when it was clear already that Pope Emeritus is, of course, also because of his age, not doing so well. And then 4 days ago, now I think 5 days ago, we heard and Pope Francis in his last general audience, he said, "Please pray for Pope Emeritus," and he was right, because it wasn't long after that he really passed away. Yesterday evening, a group of people also from our office were able to go up to Mater Ecclesia, which is the monastery where Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI lived, and to pay their condolences, to also say goodbye. It was very solemn up there because it was very it was atypical. Usually you don't just get to go into the Vatican if you're not working there, if you don't have a function there, which is understandable also. But this openness also to allow people, and the Swiss guys were check, "Oh, you're coming to say goodbye? Yes, please, just go." So it was a really it was a solemn atmosphere, but it was also uplifting somehow that that you're allowed to do that and to go there, and regardless of your function, just if you knew about it, then you could go there. And today also Sergio Mattarella and Giorgia Meloni were there. Is that interesting that they're coming right now on the very first day? I mean, they will be here for the funeral.
Yeah, that shows their priority. Of course, the Italian state and the Vatican, they are very close, but it's also very well known that Pope Benedict loved Italy. He even wrote it in his spiritual testament and said, "Italy is my second home place, has become to be my second home place." And so I think it's a nice signal from them.
It's a very nice signal. Anything else that we've learned about the funeral?
Not so far. I don't have the dates right now in my head, but if you check out our social media channels, I saw that EWTN Vatican and all of our channels in the different languages published this morning an overview about the most important dates and the times. So feel free to check it out, and if you have any questions, feel free.
We'll also update here later more on that when it's. I mean, we know the funeral will be on the 5th at 9:30 a.m. Rome time. EWTN will be live before that as well, but then of course also rebroadcast it, and we'll make sure that we also have it on all our digital channels, this live streaming and being able also to talk about this. Rudolf, one more thing on the media side, because you're also working together with your colleagues here, with the journalists who are reporting on this. In Germany, I mean, German newspapers have been, and media outlets in general, have been very, very vocal when Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI was elected. A very famous quote was, "We are Pope, wir sind Papst," in the main newspaper of Germany, most widely read newspaper of Germany. This has changed a little bit through his pontificate. Also, the sentiment in Germany is not really pro-Catholic. It's not really welcoming to, I mean, probably because it's a secular country also, so the media is more distanced to the church, I would say. How are they reporting now about Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI?
If you're a faithful Catholic, then it's sometimes very hard to read some of these articles, especially from the maybe public televisions or for the big newspapers in Germany. It's still, the Germans still have a very strange relationship to their Pope, but in the end, I just want to quote maybe one journalist. I read this article yesterday, and his summary was, "This country didn't deserve this Pope." Maybe it's a little bit too harsh, but we will see in the next days when maybe things will change, and when historians will look back to this pontificate, maybe also the people in Germany will think differently.
But do you think that people are also open to see what he really did and what impact he really had?
Yeah, I'm always surprised when people come here and ask me and say, hey, you're working very close to the Vatican. Please tell me what's this stuff. For example, with the red shoes, it's a big thing. So Pope Benedict wore red shoes because he's so rich. And then you speak a little bit about the meaning. Say, yeah, that represents the blood of Jesus Christ because it's a matter and so on. And then some people are ready to think twice about that. And I think the personal witness of everyone, that if your life is the best witness for the faith, and maybe that's also with Benedict's life the same.
Thank you, Ro. Thank you so much. May I ask you a favor? I just saw our next guest walking by here. He missed us. Maybe you can bring him back. Paul Bade is walking over there. Our next guest that we ask here also to be with us. He has been in the St. Peter's Basilica right now, and he's of course a real expert on Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI. 1 second. Rudolf, am Ende der Straße. Ganz dort. And he just walked by our camera position, so to get him back here for you live, we need to get him back here as well. I just want to share one thing also regarding the reporting on Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI. There's an interview out with Archbishop Genswein where he's again talking about the abuse crisis in the church, where he's talking about Pope Emeritus Benedict's role. And he said a very interesting thing in this interview to EWTN also. He said, well, all the facts are out in the open. Everything can be read up. Everything can be understood also and seen what exactly he knew and what he didn't know. And if you're acting in good faith, if you're not just out for bashing his legacy also, you can actually see that and you can understand what has happened there and how it's being dealt with. And while of course it's been a big problem, a big crisis, a big thing that needs to be challenged, it's not something that Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI ever tried to hide or tried to do away with. No, he was the one really starting also working on bettering the situation and to improve the situation, how the church is dealing, how authorities are dealing with this huge problem of abuse. At the same time now, we also see the fruits of this work with all the reports coming out, with all the reports that are investigating who did what, who really knew what. And so this is a fruit also of the early work of Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI. And now we have Paul Bade here, who is also from Germany, who's been a journalist here in Rome for many years, reporting for the German newspaper Die Welt, but also who is now working with and for EWTN at the same time. Paul, you're also responsible for the Vatican magazine in German, and you're reporting here the inside stories, really, what is happening behind the walls of St. Peter's. Paul, I understand you just came out from the Basilica and you've seen Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI lying there in state. How was that experience?
Great experience. I mean, powerful experience, because this is a part of myself. He's been a part of my life.
What does that mean? He's been a part of your life. Can you tell us a bit more about it?
I shared so many events with him and adventures with him and books with him and words with him. Yes, and I shared with him his research for the face of God.
His research for the
face of God.
For the face of God. Can you tell us more about the face of God?
Yes. He's been the one who rediscovered it after years. He's been the one, they had the face of God, they had the Veronica here, the true icon that here in St. Peter's for hundreds of years, and got away in the Sacred Rome in 1527. Unnoticed for, never, yeah. And he discovered it in the Abruzzi Mountains. He was the first who made a pilgrimage there and got on his knees before it.
So we're talking about the Ville also in Manupello, yes, right, which is a small little town close to Pescara at the other side of Italy, so to say, at the periphery, at the eastern coast of Italy, and a small little town where there was found a shroud out a veil showing the face of Jesus, and it's actually, there has been now a lot of research being put into this. Paul, you wrote a book also about it with all the different steps there, how likely it is also that this is really the true face of Jesus Christ.
Yeah. It's been a veil, it was put on the face of Jesus on his burial, as St. John tells us, and as the last time in John Paul II when he died, he brought it back. We'll see it in 2 days' time, that the veil will be put on his face, on Benedict's face.
And Paul, we just learned or confirmed, I mean, it's been out for a bit longer, that the last words of Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI, they were not German, they were in Italian.
Yes,
and
really?
they were in Italian. That's what his
interesting.
private secretary also confirmed. It's "Lord, I love you."
Yeah.
Is that something that you could also see during his life?
Yes, during his life. And a very interesting comparison is, the only emperor who stepped back was Carl V from Spain, Carlos I in Spain. In his last year, he stepped back. He resigned in 1555 in Brussels, all dressed in black. It was a scandal in these days. And then he got back in the monastery in Spain. His last words were, "Ay mi Jesus." "Ay mi Jesus." It's the same what he is saying. Also in Spanish, not in German.
Also in Spanish. The interesting thing also Pope Francis said in his first public speech at the Vespers, Te Deum Vespers, at the end of the year, after the passing of Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI, he spoke about him and his legacy, and especially those last years that he lived after his resigning, and where he was in Mater Ecclesia, that especially those years his testimony was so strong, a testimony of faith, a testimony of prayer as well, that he also gave to the church as such. But Paul, what sentence, what word, what phrase, what impression will you take with you from Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI?
Jesus, I love you. In German.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
May I add a last sentence?
Please.
His book, he has written so many books, but his life can be read as a book itself. He was been born in Good Saturday between Good Friday and Easter, and now he died on the day of St. in church 3 days ago. The church remembers Sylvester. Sylvester has been the Pope who rebuilt that church, St. Peter's and the Lateran. He baptized Constantine, and he found Europe, and he was the last European. He took that day to die.
So you're talking about Pope Sylvester, and also how symbolic it is that Pope Emeritus died.
Founded Europe, and he ended it in a way. It's just the European part of the church history. That was it. Yeah.
And on that day, that's also when Pope Emeritus passed away. Paul, thank you so much. We'll take your words with us. Jesus, I love you. The last words of Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI in Italian, actually, which is remarkable for a German native speaker. Because he thought also in Italian, also something that you can see Archbishop Genswein saying in his interview. I really refer you to that also to get a little bit of an idea who were the favorite saints for Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI. What looked his prayer life like, and also was he actually afraid of death? Those questions are answered in that interview. I would like to refer you to on our channels all over social media, from Facebook to YouTube, for EWTN. In Rome, Andreas Tonhauser, EWTN, Vatican Bureau.